But cultures have a lot of cool things. My culture has some cool stuff, but a lot of times it doesn't have cool stuff. I think I've talked to you about, man, my wife's culture, she comes from a Slovenian culture, and it just seems to be so much more family oriented. And that's good, but sometimes it can drive you batty too. So anyways,
What's the definition of culture, I suppose?
I guess kind of traditions, and I grew up with the term, well, I was taught mores. Have you ever heard that term? It's kind of like unspoken rules among cultural people.
It's interesting that you said that you and your wife have different cultures, but yet both of your skin color is white. So I think people would associate your culture being the same culture, even though it's not.
It is definitely not.
I know that's off topic.
No. I think that's really important.
Yeah.
It is a totally different culture. Now, I think if somebody saw my wife or if I had different skin color, they would think, well, this is a race issue. Mm-hmm. It's just a culture issue.
Now, if a black person, for example, grew up in a white culture, would their culture still technically be like, say a black, because there's different skin colors all over the world. So an American, black American, if they grew up here in America, is their culture American?
Well, that is really interesting because, everybody's got pockets kind of in America that's got their own little culture to it. Mm-hmm. I am not part of the hip hop culture, but if you're a black person, you went to Africa, once again, I'm not part of the American hip hop culture. You might not be able to find a black hip hop culture in the nation of Africa. I mean, in the continent of Africa, but you'll find a lot of black people, and so I don't know if that makes sense, what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think myself included, I've always associated culture with the skin color, but it doesn't have to be that way.
No.
Or it actually isn't that way.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Anyway, I don't know if everyone else knows that. Maybe they did, but I didn't.
I'll show you. See, people don't mean to do this, but they can stereotype.
Yeah.
I had this, when I was in Texas, we had these singers. I can't remember what African nation they're from. They came over, and this guy was like, yeah, we'll finally see how true worship is about. And he thought it was going to be... it was going to be this great music with the beat and everybody's going to be dancing around. And these ladies came in and they sang the most mournful song I think I've ever heard in my life. And he had it stereotyped that, they're from Africa. That's going to be with this great beat and people dancing around. And it wasn't like that at all, because it was that specific African culture. And I don't know what nation it was. But that's how they wanted to praise God. And it didn't always have to be simply these great big beats, So anyways, I know we're getting off the topic.
Yeah.
But anyways, it's all very interesting to me. I think the original point I just was wanting to say was that I have no idea now.
Well,
I don't know what I was going to say.
Well, we were talking about how the sons of gods were marrying the daughters of women or daughters of men. And so and then we went into the interracial thing and how that didn't matter. None of that mattered. But it matters if they both should be believers.
Right. See, sometimes there's been a time in the world where they talk about mixed marriages and that would be race. Mm-hmm. If I'm a Christian, I'm talking about mixed marriage. I'm talking about people of different faiths. Mm. Okay? Or a believer and a non-believer. Mm-hmm. That to me is what I would describe as a mixed marriage. And it's a sad thing because I think people just totally disregard that. Oh, come on, that's so close-minded. What? All I can say is that it will cause problems. If you're with an unbeliever, you share so much. If a Christian was an unbeliever, you share so much, but you can't share the most important thing in your life. What will eventually happen is one of the two things. Maybe that non-believer will become a believer, but there's also a very good chance that believer, out of peace and wanting the marriage to last, will become a non-believer, or just maybe because that influence over the years.
And how do you raise your children?
And how do you raise, oh man, and it's a disaster. And I will say this, sometimes people say, oh yeah, there's a time where at least we're past that now. I know a time where all people get upset if different denominations got married. I actually think that is a problem. What I have seen is that if two different people from different denominations who really are serious about their faith get together and they can't really agree, and they say, okay, well, we'll just kind of agree to disagree, and they go to each other's churches, the next generation kind of thinks, oh, religion doesn't matter. What really matters is love. As long as you love each other. And they wind up, well, I love each other. I really don't care about either one. We're not committed. It really didn't matter. I mean, we went to one church, we went to the other church. The teaching, what did it matter? All that really mattered was love. And I'm afraid it sparks indifference in the generation, even if it's two Christians, but from two different denominations. The next generation is going to be indifferent because it's like, well, did it really matter? They got along. What matters is that we get along like my parents do. The specific beliefs don't matter. And all I can say is when you read scripture, belief does matter. Teaching does matter. That's a whole bunch of the New Testament. Paul will say, don't believe this, believe this. That's wrong, and that will lead you astray. Teaching, or you could say doctrine, and some people don't even want to hear about doctrine, but doctrine is important, not because, oh, we have to be sticks in the mud, but because Christ presents his teaching as something to be lived out and believed, not something to just be out in the air and it doesn't really matter. When there's theological differences, those are real differences. It's just not, oh, whatever. Anyways, I'll let you talk.
No, I'm processing that because I don't know 100% how I feel about it yet. Because I'm just processing it, Yeah. But, because I do know a lot of people who have different denominations and are together. So I'm just trying to... Do
you think it's helped their spiritual life or not? Do you think it's been a cool thing in their marriage?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
So I just know that I know people who are, and I don't know about their personal spiritual relationship.
Yeah.
Or how, I don't know if it's created any indifference. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's my observation, but maybe you can find some other things that I've heard before.
Because even Lutherans, I'm sorry to cut you off, even Lutherans now, we're all Lutherans, but we tend to believe different things even still, I think. At least some people do.
Who are these people? What's their numbers?
Certain theology of it, I'm pretty sure. But I don't know. So that's interesting.
Yeah. Well, there's some things that can be debated, but some things shouldn't be. And what I'm afraid is that then it just becomes, let's not talk about it. Let's just ignore it. It doesn't really matter. That's probably what's going to happen. If you have husband and wife together and, okay, you stay in your section, I'll stay in mine, and we'll respect each other, but your truth's not my truth. And that's kind of what you start saying to the kids.
Is that the same when it comes to politics too? Or is it different?
Wow. Here's something, what's kind of crazy in my own life, my observation is that people are more loyal to politics than their religion. That might sound kind of crazy. You would think it wouldn't be that way, and I think it shouldn't be that way. But I find it's rare for a Republican to marry a Democrat, and these things really still matter in their lives. They're going to have to say, oh, I'm nominal Democrat, I'm nominal Republican. But if they're serious on both ways, it's not going to work. But I've seen more mixed marriages when it comes to religion than when it comes to politics.
I feel like my experience with that is different.
Uh-huh.
I think both Democrat and Republicans, if they claim Christianity, I think that they think that their way is Christian. Does that make sense?
Well, it definitely makes sense. Everybody will want to say that their way is Christian. Okay. But then why is it Christian? Well, because I believe it. And then they can't really explain it. Why is this the right party? Well, I wouldn't be joining a wrong party, would I? I mean, it's kind of similar. I told somebody this yesterday. I used to be, my parents very strong Republicans. Well, I don't know if strong Republicans. My dad much more strong than my mom. But, I grew up with Ronald Reagan, and he was always about cutting taxes. This is the first time in my life where, not that I voted, but I've actually I voted locally on the local level, not for the presidential level. And I am astounded because what happens is that you go into this voting booth and instead of just saying vote Democrat or Republican, you have all these different options. And I'm afraid that before I lived here, I probably would have said, well, what's the Republican view? No more taxes. But then I actually look at it and I go, oh, that would be good for the elderly in our community to have some form of busing. I know a lot of people that would need that. Oh, that'd be nice to have a park for our children. Okay. And then I wind up signing up that like, oh, it'll just be a little tax for me, but it's kind of changed. I hope that people can be educated and take every issue not as, well, what did my Republican Party say? What do you say in that situation? Consistent with your community and what your needs are. Just because you like something for you doesn't mean it's best for everybody. And really, a Christian wants to love their neighbor even at the voting booth. It's not just what's good for me, but what's good for you. Well, what's good for me is good for everybody because it's good for me. No.
But don't politics say we're saying Democrat, Republican, marriage, whatever. Can't that change? Sometimes, as a Christian, depending on who's running, it doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. It just depends on the person, what their policies are going to be, what they care about, what they look like in the world, that type of thing, right?
Yeah, but if you do belong to a specific party, it's expected that you're going to follow some of the party ideals.
I feel like I can't identify as either.
Okay. Well, then you're an independent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just kind of go with what I feel is based on what the text would want me to say.
Yeah, I generally vote Republican, but not because of taxes or non-taxes, but because the issue of life is very important to me. And I believe, at least at that part of the Republican Party, where it seems like much more about protecting the unborn life, I support that. Sometimes I just think, whether it's Democrat or Republican, this is a stereotype, but God has given us politicians. We're supposed to honor them. Sometimes it seems like they're just trying to do what they can do to make sure they stay in that position of power. Mm-hmm. And are the credentials or, why are you doing this? Because I can stay in power. Mm-hmm. But maybe that's also a stereotype. Right. I have to be careful.
I actually like that you said that you care more about voting almost locally instead. I think everyone else almost in the world cares more about the presidential election than their own local. I think if everyone started local voting and took that almost as seriously as voting for our president, I think communities might look a little bit better.
Exactly.
But I don't know. But I really truly think that the local voting is more trustworthy almost than the presidential voting, but I don't know.
Sometimes I think Americans, for some reason, have almost a God complex when it comes to the president of the United States. If only we get the right guy in. I said right God there, I didn't mean to. But right guy in or girl in, everything will go great, and it never does. And you have a much better chance of affecting things in your local community than you do on a national level.
True.
But people don't see it. They want to think, he's the most powerful man in the land, so I got to get him to be my friend, or he has to be behind me and me behind him. When it's definitely, what's going on in your local community. That's really what's going to have the most impact on your life.
Right. That's so huge. I never thought of it till just now.
Yeah. And the impact on others in your community too. Like I said, I'm like, whoa, this could be good for them. And this would be good for them.
Right.
And before that, it was just like, what do I want?
Mm-hmm.